The BMW Nazca M12. The Nazca M12 was a low, sharp, mid-engine sports car with a V12 pulled straight out of the BMW 850i. It was, by most accounts, one of the most beautiful cars anyone had seen in years. Journalists at Geneva lost their minds over it. They showed a roadster version the following year, and people lost their minds again. And then nothing. BMW never said why. They just kind of moved on. The most likely reason is that their M1 supercar from a few years earlier had gone way over budget and barely sold, and they probably weren't eager to repeat that experience. So the Nazca just existed on the show circuit for a while, got photographed a lot, and then quietly disappeared, which is a pretty unsatisfying ending for one of the coolest cars of the 90s, but that's what happened. The Bugatti 16C Galibier. Okay, so in 2009, Bugatti, the company that makes the Veyron, decided they were going to make a four-door sedan, a four-door Bugatti, with a W16 engine that could do 230 miles per hour. And it would cost over $2 million. The interior had a Swiss tourbillon watch built into the dashboard that you could take out and wear on your wrist, which is either the coolest thing ever or completely insane depending on who you ask. The plan, apparently, was to replace the Veyron entirely with this car once they'd sold 450 Veyrons. So this wasn't just a concept, it was supposed to be the future of the whole brand. But then they started making changes based on customer feedback, and the car got taller and longer and more practical, and at some point it started looking, in the words of Bugatti's own designer, like a Dachshund from the side. And allegedly, a very powerful Volkswagen executive came in for a viewing in 2012, looked at it, didn't like what he saw, and that was it. Project cancelled. They took all the money and started working on the Chiron instead. So the car that was supposed to replace the Veyron just became the reason the Chiron exists. There's probably a lesson in there somewhere. The Volkswagen W12 Nardo. Most people don't think of Volkswagen when they think of supercars, and honestly that's fair, but for a brief moment in the late 90s they were genuinely trying. In 1997, they showed up with a mid-engine concept packing a 6.0-liter W12 making 600 horsepower, and to prove it wasn't just a show car, they drove it around the Nardo high-speed ring in Italy for 24 hours straight and set a bunch of endurance records. So it was real and it was fast and people were interested. Then Volkswagen bought Bugatti in 1998 and basically decided that if they were going to have a supercar, it should wear a Bugatti badge and not a Volkswagen badge, which, fair enough, I guess. The W12 engine itself ended up in the Bentley Continental GT and the Phaeton, so it didn't go to waste. But the actual car never happened. Volkswagen went from almost making a supercar to just owning a company that makes supercars instead. Different thing. The Cadillac 16. This is one of those cars where you look at it and genuinely wonder why they didn't just build it. In 2003, Cadillac showed up to the Detroit Auto Show with an 18-foot-long sedan with a 13.6-liter V16, making 1,000 horsepower and 1,000 pound-feet of torque. The engine was developed in 8 months, which is kind of insane. Inside it had silk carpets, hand-stitched leather, and a Bevelgari clock in the dashboard, which honestly sounds like the kind of thing a supervillain drives. They were never actually going to build it though. A V16 that size made no sense from an emission standpoint and would have cost an absurd amount to manufacture. It was really just a design statement, a way of saying Cadillac still had ambition. And it worked because the design language from the 16 ended up shaping pretty much everything Cadillac made for the next decade. So the car never happened, but it kind of shaped everything that did. The Lamborghini Pregunta. This one has a genuinely weird origin story. In 1998, Lamborghini was owned by Chrysler, and they commissioned a French coach builder called Huliez to design a concept car based on the Diablo. Now, Huliez is not a name most people know, and the reason most people don't know it is that they were mainly famous for making articulated buses. The result was the Pregunta, which means question in Spanish, and the design was based on the Dassault Rafale fighter jet, right down to the matte gray paint they apparently borrowed from the actual aircraft. They even raced it alongside a real Rafale at some point, which sounds amazing. Then Audi bought Lamborghini, and one of the first things they did was cancel all concept projects. So the Pregunta was done before it ever really got started. Only one was ever built. It sat in a private collection for years and recently showed up at auction with an estimate of somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 million euros, which is a lot of money for a car that technically never existed officially. The BMW GINA. So at some point in 2001, someone at BMW asked the question, what if instead of metal, the body of a car was made of fabric? And rather than being told no and going home, they were apparently given a full engineering team and 7 years to figure it out. The GINA, which stands for Geometry and Functions in and Adaptions, had its entire exterior covered in a single piece of polyurethane-coated fabric stretched over a movable aluminum frame. And the frame could actually move, so the shape of the car could change while you were driving it. The headlights didn't have covers. The fabric just opened like eyelids when you turned them on. There was a rear spoiler that rose underneath the skin without breaking through it. It's a deeply strange car to look at. BMW said from the start that it was never going to be produced. It was purely a design experiment. They revealed it in 2008, 7 years after they started building it. The only one that exists lives in the BMW Museum in Munich and apparently still works, which is more than you can say for most things made of fabric. The Mazda Furai. Most of the cars on this list didn't make it because of money or politics or bad timing. The Furai didn't make it because it caught fire and burned to the ground, which is a different kind of ending. Mazda revealed it at Detroit in 2008, and it was, genuinely, one of the most visually striking cars anyone had made in years. It was built on a proper racing chassis, ran a 3-rotor engine on pure ethanol, made around 450 horsepower, and looked like it had been designed by someone who thought regular cars were too normal. It was fully drivable and actually fast. Top Gear magazine got the only road test it ever had, in August 2008 at a former Royal Air Force base in England. At the end of the shoot, the driver noticed smoke coming into the cabin, stopped the car, and got out. The fire crews were on the other side of a hill and didn't see what was happening until it was too late. By the time they got there, the Furai was basically gone. Mazda took the wreck back to their design studio in California and hasn't said much about it since. Someone emailed them in 2024 asking where the car is, and their response was, "We cannot share the location of the concept." So it's out there somewhere in whatever state it's in, and Mazda would rather not talk about it. The Dodge Circuit EV. In January 2009, Dodge showed up to Detroit with a fully electric sports car. It looked aggressive, it had a claimed range of 150 to 200 miles, and could get to 60 in under 5 seconds. The timing felt right. Tesla had just launched the Roadster, people were starting to take electric performance cars seriously, and Dodge was apparently ready to be part of that conversation. Then 4 months later, Chrysler filed for bankruptcy. And that was it. The circuit just stopped being a priority immediately. If Chrysler hadn't gone bankrupt in 2009, Dodge might have had an electric sports car years before anyone else in that space. Instead, it became a footnote in a bankruptcy filing, which is probably the least cool way a car can end. The Jaguar CX75. Jaguar revealed this at the 2010 Paris Motor Show to celebrate their 75th anniversary, and the original concept was genuinely wild. It used 2 diesel-powered micro-gas turbines to generate electricity for 4 electric motors, like actual small jet turbines. It made around 778 horsepower and had a claimed electric range of 68 miles. The reaction was so strong that 6 months later, Jaguar said they were actually going to build it. 250 cars, working with Williams, the Formula One team. Prototypes were built, journalists drove them, everyone said it was incredible. Then, in December 2012, Jaguar canceled the whole thing, said the economic climate didn't support a £1 million supercar. 5 prototypes were kept. They later got used in the James Bond film Spectre as the villain's car, which is honestly not a bad legacy, but also not what anyone was hoping for when they first saw that car in Paris.